And blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Looks like Dave's out, Doug's out. We're back after a week sabbatical. Thank you, Ray Amaya, for keeping things running. Thank you to the Idaho newsmakers that I hope provided you some quality information, some quality entertainment while I was on a sabbatical trying to just get the focus ready for the last half of the year. Again, blessed to be with you. And as I said to my sister-in-law, so happy to be home, so happy to be with you. It's crazy being away. So it is Spirit of Boise Balloon Week. Hopefully we'll see you down there in Ann Morrison Park, brought to you by Town Square Media and our friends at Cap Ed Credit Union. Going to be a big week. Joining us now from the RNC, Liz Harrington. Liz, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
So here we have people going after the president saying he's over. You've got some primary challenges. Seems kind of crazy considering all the good stuff that the president has done for the economy. And really, in particular, for the Republican Party, what do you make of it?
It's absolutely absurd. It's definitely the New York, D.C. media bubble who have never met a real American, don't see what's actually happening in America right now over the past 2.5 years. I mean, the country's doing really, really well. And here you have the media after a week calling for a recession now, or finding any other loser they can put on TV to prop up just to try to hurt this president, when the reality on the ground is this president is the most popular Republican in office we've had, other than George Bush right after 9/11. And that, of course, was a historic different time. And so this president's so popular because he's following through on the promises he's made. It's truly incredible to see somebody who ran on issue after issue, and then you see day after day what he's doing. He's following through on his word.
Well, it really underscores how dangerous the media has become, and we don't use those terms lightly here on KIDO Talk Radio, particularly when you look at Obama, you look at former President Obama, the economy that he had, the scandals that he had that went unreported, the cover that Lynch, the cover that Eric Holder gave him. And as you said, people are cheering in the media for a recession. They're going to give a lot of free airtime to Bill Weld and this other guy, Walsh, whatever his name is. It's unfortunate, but let's go. How do you counteract that negative Nelly media narrative?
We just talk directly to the American people, and we go. I mean, that's why the president does so many rallies, and that's why he tweets. But he talks directly to the American people. Look, who's watching CNN on Sunday when they have a guest calling the president worse than Mao and Hitler and Stalin combined? I mean, give me a break. It is so divisive. It is so unhinged. It is so out of touch. They've lost their minds because of this president, and people are tuning out. And so we just go directly around it, and we target people where they are. We target them on the ground. We talk to them in communities. We have an army of volunteers throughout this country, 30,000 volunteers who are in this movement because they believe in it, and they're in it because they care about the country, and they see the progress that's happening, and they see lives are improving because of the policies. And then you look at the other side with what the Democrats and the media are rooting for are policies that would completely destroy this economy. If they're rooting for a recession, all you have to do is put any one of these Democratic socialists in office, because they'd hike your taxes, they'd take over health care. That is how you get a recession. And we've seen the opposite, what can happen when we rely on the free market, when we get the government out of the way with deregulation. We've seen what with the government, with the government out of the way, what the economy can do, and that's exactly what's happening. And the Democrats and the media have no argument against that.
Liz Harrington joining us from the RNC. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580. And what about Congress? And what about the moves they're going to make? I don't know. I guess they come back after Labor Day. Boy, talk about a great gig if you can get it. When do they work?
Maybe sometimes in the House, though, we don't want them to come back and to do too much over there with Nancy Pelosi and the Socialist Squad. It is amazing. They did their budget deal, which, it wasn't perfect, but we did get some good spending for military. But their agenda, it's pretty light for the rest of the year because an election's coming up, and you know what that means. So Congress isn't doing much, but you know what? The administration is still doing stuff every day. I mean, look at last week with the new Flores rule to fix that completely absurd loophole in our asylum law that was mandated by a left-wing judge in California in 1997. We've lived with it for decades. And the administration, their team is working so hard to do things by the book, by what we can do legally to fix and make our immigration system work again. And that's what they've done. So they fixed that, allows us to keep family units together throughout their process. So they aren't just released into the country and we never see them again. It keeps them together so we can see if their claim for asylum is valid. And we know during this crisis, a lot of people have been using our asylum process as a means to get into the country illegally, and they haven't had meritorious claims. So that's just one example of the administration working every single day. They're doing more than Congress has done. And on the Senate, though, at least we are approving a lot of judges, and Mitch McConnell is totally leading in that front. We're getting a lot of young, conservative, constitutionalist judges throughout the federal bench, and we're really pleased about that.
Well, how important is that here on KIDO Talk Radio that it doesn't get reported by the press, the judges?
Yeah, it is so important. I mean, it is truly amazing. We passed 100. That was, 6 weeks ago. I think it's about 107 federal judges right now. More all the time. Mitch McConnell has led in this front. The administration is the one who nominates these judges. And President Trump likes to talk about this. Barack Obama left these vacant. And so there are a lot of spots that we're able to vastly influence this country for a long time. And it's so important because we see the power of what judges can do, like I mentioned with the Flores decision in California. It's hugely important to get, these aren't activist judges, they're judges that rule by the Constitution, and they're young and they can have an impact for a very long time. So it can't be understated enough how important that work is and how many vacancies we've been filled. And Mitch McConnell's slogan now is leave no vacancy behind. So that's what they're doing, and they're working every day and confirming more. And it's really great news for the country, and it's really great news to keep our Constitution. It's not a living document. It is so, so important that we were founded on these principles and ideals of equality under the law and freedom. And so it's so, so important. I can't say it enough.
And finally, Liz, what do you make of the China trade war?
Well, look, it's so important. We've seen what the president can do. He just got a great new trade deal with Japan during this G7 summit. He said, he's got support of our allies in this fight against China. This is something that's long overdue. And for decades, past administrations have said they would deal with China, and they haven't. And so since they were allowed into the World Trade Organization by Bill Clinton, they have completely taken advantage. They've become a world power because they were able to use that bad deal that Bill Clinton allowed them to enter and allowed them to be a developed nation, even though they aren't. And so we've seen the consequences of that. They steal our intellectual property. There's a huge trade imbalance. They are a bad actor on the world stage, and so they have to be confronted. The president believes in free trade, but it has to be fair, and it hasn't been fair for decades. And so he's absolutely going to keep the gas on this because we have to. It has to be dealt with at some point. Our economy right now is so strong and able to withstand it, and the more we get more good trade deals like this one with Japan, and if Congress, speaking of their agenda this fall, they better pass the USMCA. I mean, that should be high on the agenda list, and Nancy Pelosi has refused to bring it to the floor. The second we get that through, a great deal with Mexico and Canada, that also puts the pressure on China. So our economy is so strong. We know China has been suffering from this. Their economy is on the decline. We've seen reports, even in the New York Times, that factories are leaving China. we need to keep the pressure on because China is a threat, and they've made no excuses. They've made they haven't lied about their plans of what they want to do. They want to be a global, powerful force, and that's not good for the world. So we need to hold them in check, and we need to keep the pressure on.
Liz Worthington, RNC, thank you very much for joining us here in Idaho.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, let's go to R&R. R&R, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Hello, R&R.
Hey, Miller Militia is back in its power base.
We're back.
Really nice to hear you took some time, and I wanted to speak. Just broke my heart this morning when I heard about that head-on crash and people my age in a SUV. That's one of the things about Idaho that perplexes me is that it's 85 on the freeway, which I just think is ridiculous, and then the two-lane roads are just so compact, and everybody's got to get somewhere too fast on the weekend. So if we could get that stagecoach going that you were talking about, right, and patrol the Idaho-Oregon border now that there are a bunch of potheads in Ontario.
Well, I will tell you that having spent some time at the Oregon coast, the pot shops are everywhere. People are smoking dope everywhere, and they want to come here. And Oregon is a very different place than Idaho, and we need to make sure it stays that way.
I was there 62 many years. So I was just thinking if we could get that stagecoach running and at least Dave Petzo could be on board, and you guys could maybe get President Trump to come over. That would be a real calling card. You guys run.
And getting back to your point about safety, I mean, people are just driving too fast. The I-5 in Portland was shut down because of a crash. Crashes all around us. And, they talk about the 100 deadliest days of summer. Here we have school starting today. And hopefully people will act responsibly and people won't, speed because you lose control. And, then you have people texting and doing all sorts of stupid things.
Well, you can put your vehicle in neutral essentially, and just gravity or inertia will roll you through the school zone. So,
right.
Well, keep it. And the other thing is, I'm fairly certain of my bet that you're up for a Marconi. So you're so connected to the United States. I just love listening to you in your just free flowing. I think you call it. Your ability to just talk to anybody. You're still going to be St. Kevin and St. Peter at the pearly gates. So,
well, no, I think he's got a big list on me, and I think I'm going to be spending some time in rehab on that one when I meet St. Peter.
I'm glad you're back. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Yes, we're back from sabbatical, and, it's funny when you take a look at being away and how much it makes you appreciate everything. For this vacation, I tell you, I was really yearning to be back, and I just sat around reading books. I don't know what that did, but you take a look at just the issues that face us. People are going after the president. People are going after America. You have and I'm sure you heard about it here, the transgender decision where you have the guy that wants to be a girl. We'll get to it. Governor Little now will continue to appeal this through the Attorney General, the crime-fighting Attorney General, Lawrence Wasden. The Ninth Circuit said that Idaho has to provide the surgery, the money for the guy that wants to be the girl, the convicted sexual offender. I mean, is this any way for your tax dollars to be spent? And speaking of gender, we now have people on national television saying that there are not two genders, that they're not just men and women. We'll tell you about the latest outrage. Hopefully it'll make you laugh next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be with you. By the way, the Girls with Guns competition underway. Very, very competitive. Over 15,000 votes so far. That means your vote counts. Win some great prizes from our wonderful friends at Independence Indoor Shooting. You can win a rifle. You can win a gun safe. You can actually win. You can win and this is the coolest prize of all, a year's membership to Independence Indoor Shooting. You don't want to miss that. Your opportunity to vote and to vote for your favorite girl with her gun is happening now, KIDOTalkRadio.com. And don't forget, it's easy. I was talking to my sister-in-law in Lincoln City, and she goes, look, I've got the KIDO Talk Radio app. And I said, well, Cindy, thank you very much for allowing us to earn your real estate. She goes, well, I click in until, you upset me, and then I kind of move on. But again, the KIDO Talk Radio app is free. We would love for you to be a part of that as well. A couple of the top stories that we are monitoring here. The president suggesting he might host next year's G7 summit at Trump Golf Resort in Florida. That wouldn't be a bad idea. Of course, why not host the G Summit right here in the beautiful state of Idaho? We continue to urge the president, the administration to come by and really, really set the tone. People are talking about Boise State football, rightfully so, but you really want to set the world on fire, bring the president here to the Gem State. The president also saying that China is coming to grips, that they have to deal with the United States. Let's hope so for the sake of our farmers. Let's hope so for the sake of our economy. And another story that may or may not get a lot of attention, and that is former Congressman Joe Walsh. No, not that Joe Walsh. Joe Walsh, a Tea Party favorite, was a congressman from Illinois, now a talk show host with Salem Radio Networks, is running for the presidency. And he has a lot of comments. We'll get to him in a minute. So he thinks that the president has done a bad job for conservatives. So Joe Walsh has joined the fray. Now, what gets me is that you have an attack on the left. You have an attack on the right. You have William Weld, one of the most liberal ever Republicans from the state of Massachusetts, attacking the president. Now you have Joe Walsh from the right. Does it really matter? No, none of these people are going to go anywhere. But again, it weakens the president.
No, he's not a small government guy at all. We're spending more on interest on the deficit now than we are on national defense. Interest on the debt is the fourth largest item in the federal budget. They're spending money in Washington like drunken sailors.
That is true. And whether it's Dave Petzo or Mike Crapo or Jim Risch, Russ Fulcher, Mike Simpson, we have talked about this for quite some time. We have talked about this for years, spending too much money on the debt and the deficit. What they need to do is hire Dave Ramsey and let Dave Ramsey take care of the debt. He'll cut up all our credit cards. That may or may not be a good thing. 6:26 is our time. Kevin Miller in the morning. Traffic and weather together. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Robin. And don't forget, this week is the Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic Week. It's going to be a great week down at Ann Morrison Park. Don't forget, every morning, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday mornings, the Friday Night Glow. Saturday, they're going to be flying. So if you see the balloons flying around, why don't you check them out? It's free, thanks to our friends at CapEd Credit Union. And by the way, since school is starting, we would love to have the opportunity to go to your son, your daughter's school. Simply email me, Kevin at KIDOTalkRadio.com. CapEd Credit Union sponsors it. Team Mazda Subaru sponsors it. We would love to promote the good news of education while we continue to do the program that has been on the air here for 10 years now. 10 years, actually, the 23rd, 24th marks 10 years of being on with you. Okay, and we so appreciate the opportunity to be here. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Here is something that you won't hear on KIDO Talk Radio or the Fox News Channel.
Now, what does it mean to be a mainstream Republican? It is the question that some Republicans have been asking in the age of Donald Trump, and increasingly, it seems the answer might be to make incendiary comments about women and members of the LGBTQ community. Just yesterday, former Minnesota Representative Jason Lewis, who in 2012 lamented that men can no longer call women sluts, announced that he is challenging Senator Tina Smith for her seat next year. And in Louisiana, the Republican candidate for governor, Ralph Abraham, is out with a new TV ad this week, making incendiary comments about gender.
As a doctor, I can assure you there are only two genders.
Joining me now, Jennifer Horn, former New Hampshire GOP chairwoman who just resigned from the Log Cabin Republicans. And we've got an...
It's crazy. Jason Lewis was a former talk show host in Charlotte, North Carolina. Really brilliant guy. Jennifer Horn actually replaced me in New Hampshire before becoming the state chair there when I was doing a talk show host when I moved on to other markets. However, it's not incendiary to say that there are only two genders, is it? Think about that for a minute. Here you have a doctor saying there's a boy and a girl. That's it. You know, kids today have so much going on. Why in the world would we try to confuse them even more? Let's go there next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning, Doug. And Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic this week in Morrison Park. More details, KIDOTalkRadio.com. Jeff Manasso joining us from Fox News Radio. Jeff, good to have you with us. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you. A lot going on, of course, in the world today. Of course, did you watch any of the football action over the weekend?
Yeah, just a little bit, particularly the booing out of the Indianapolis Colts, the stands and the fans, as we learned Andrew Luck was retiring while he was still standing there on the field. That was kind of bizarre.
It was, when you think about all the work and all that has gone into to Andrew Luck and what he's meant to that franchise and the league, and of course his father played in the NFL as well.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And, you know, the fan reaction, they might have some legitimate gripe. He could have retired, you know, months ago, although, you know, we heard from Andrew Luck and his explanation, and it was really heartfelt. And it you know, you could kind of see where he wanted to really work hard and try and push through, but that his body was telling him that this was the time. And, you know, sad at the same time for him, but he's going to be just fine. Not sure what the Colts are going to be doing.
Well, let's find out what's going on in the Fox Wheel segment today, sir.
Well, you knew that this was going to happen at some point, and Porsche is trying to be the first automaker to bring streaming video, a la, you know, Netflix or whatever it is that you stream on your television to vehicles. It wants to bring streaming video to its first full electric sedan, though Automotive News also reporting that Porsche is first working on video use cases, so they're going to do some studies on how it's used to make sure it's safe. The electric Taycan's 10.9-inch digital screen is expected to use technology that would limit the viewing angle of the driver. So say there's a really good part on some sort of show that the passenger's watching, that the driver wouldn't be able to see it. I'm not sure how that's going to work, to be honest with you. We'll see, though. Tesla plans a similar video streaming type of technology and service, though its vehicles, all it needs is a software update to be able to accomplish that. So Tesla's in line to bring in streaming video to cars. Seems kind of dangerous to me. Seems like the more technology is cool as it is, it just takes our eyes off the road even more. So it's going to be interesting to see how Porsche and Tesla pull this off with, you know, the balancing act, which is very delicate in terms of safety.
Indeed. It's almost time for the end of the year car sales.
Big discounts. I mean, you know, I don't know what kind of car whatever car you're in the market for, just wait. They're going to be offering, you know, 0% financing for 60 months, 72 months, and steep discounts as the new 2020 models come out. And a really good way to check out and find out when the dealer might be, or the auto brand might be coming out with 0% financing or really cheap financing rates and incentives and rebates is just to Google it. Look into it and look into 2018 deals, and they'll come up. They'll say September, October, you know, November, December is the best time to buy this type of vehicle or that type of vehicle. But big deals to be had now through the end of the year for sure.
And finally, are the automakers worried about a possible slowdown in sales, since sales have been through the roof for so many years, it seems?
I'm not aware of any a worry at this point. You know, there's some issues with trade and China and certain types of vehicles that might be affected, but people are buying cars, and they're buying them in big numbers in this country.
Jeff Manasso, Fox News Radio. Thank you.
You bet.
Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller in the morning. Phone numbers, as we've just given you, don't forget as well, Girls with Guns going on now. We would love for you to be a part of it. Earlier, we were talking about people challenging the president of the United States. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But first, as we first told you here on KIDO Talk Radio, we've got reports that the Ninth Circuit is at it again. They've ruled that Idaho must provide gender reassignment surgery to convicted sex offender inmate Adria Enmo, serving a 10-year sentence for sexually abusing a 15-year-old boy at the age of 22. Now, the governor saying that he will continue the fight and will not provide the $30,000 procedure. Quote, "We cannot divert critical public dollars away from higher priorities of keeping the public safe and rehabilitating offenders." Enmo was diagnosed with gender dysphoria, was born a dude, but identifies as a chick. Enmo has tried to castrate herself twice while serving her prison sentence. The appeals court cited the Eighth Amendment in its decision to give Enmo the surgery, citing protection against cruel and unusual punishment. Wow. It just breaks my heart here on this one. You know, we see people that we love and that we lose through diseases like cancer and everything else, right? And I just sit back and I think of these things, and I go on and on and on about this, about people that struggle to make it, struggle to get healthy, right? And they have to fight their insurance companies. And what's the biggest fear? The biggest fear is that we're going to, lose our homes. We're going to lose our fortunes because we don't have enough money. Isn't that cruel and unusual punishment? Isn't that really cruel and unusual punishment when you think about these things? And yet here you have a convicted sex offender at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, a convicted sex offender who did something to a 15-year-old boy at the age of 22, serving 10 years, has tried to harm himself, and the Ninth Circuit calls that cruel and unusual punishment. No, the cruel and unusual punishment is what happened to that kid that did not deserve what happened to him, to be a victim, or to the thousands of people that lose their benefits, that lose their health, and have done nothing wrong, right? So why do we have more concern for a convicted sex offender? No, people attack the governor quite a bit, and we kind of do that on this program. But when the governor is doing something good, we should say, good job, Governor Little. Good job, state of Idaho. Of course, we've been talking about this for quite some time and urging the state to continue on with the fight. Now you're going to have the libs, you're going to have the progressives, you're going to have the squishy feely people saying, well, we can't do it. Well, we're going to lose money. It's better to go down on principle, I believe, than to allow this precedent to happen. Now, you just heard on the national news, if you were listening to the first hour of this program, where they have people saying, well, to say that there's only two genders is inflammatory. Folks, when are we going to stand up for ourselves and this unacceptable censorship and say, hey, enough is enough? When are we going to say that? When are we going to say there is a boy, there is a girl, and that's nature? Pete in Mountain Home, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin, and welcome back. Good to hear you in person again.
Well, it's good to be here.
I would like to say the question of your gender, when you're born, you're either XX or XY, and I believe that is what's called settled science. I don't think they can actually argue about that, and can't we use that? They use it all the time on this climate stuff, right? It's settled science. You're either XX or XY, male or female. And in later life, if you want to pretend you're something different, that's your problem. But I'm sorry, and then Mr. or Ms. or whatever Edmo and the Ninth Circuit, I have a solution to that issue. If the Ninth Circuit is that concerned about Edmo getting his transformation surgery, let every member of the Ninth Circuit, all those judges, pay for it out of their own pockets, and then I'll be good with that.
Pete, and, there are so many people dealing with real issues here. What about these Ninth Circuit folks that have no clue and calling it cruel and unusual punishment? And what about the person who's been a good person that's worked hard that could lose everything because they got sick? And remember, Obamacare was supposed to fix that.
Oh, yeah, you're going to save $2,500 a year with Obamacare, aren't you?
Right.
Well, they don't care about us. They are the elites. They are the anointed ones. They know what's best for the world. Well, it's the same thing when you get one judge in a federal circuit coming out with a decision that then affects the entire nation. Okay, President Trump, you can't do this, and that's supposed to apply to the whole nation. What's with that?
Right.
It's it's the other thing that's been driving me nuts on this China trade issue. China is our enemy. They want to run the entire world. That is their stated purpose. They've told everybody that. We have been funding that for them with they get to sell us $500 billion a year of junk, and they buy some of our food. So, it's about time we fix that little issue. And I thank God President Trump recognizes it and is in there doing it. And I'm sure the Chinese are sitting there figuring, well, we can stall on this until, 2020, and maybe he won't get reelected, and then we'll get a Democrat, and we can go back to what we were doing. And the media just drives me nuts. When Obama was president and all the companies in America were moving offshore and opening factories in China, the media and Obama were screaming about the nasty, evil, rotten corporate factories that were taking American jobs and putting them in China. And now President Trump is telling those companies, hey, if you don't like the tariffs, move your factory back to the U.S. And the media is screaming, oh, you can't do that. That's just insensitive. I swear to God, Kevin, if those people didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any.
Pete, thank you for the call.
Thank you, sir, and I appreciate the opportunity to rant. It's been building up for a while here.
Don't worry, we're back now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
580-5436, 580-KIDO. But here you have Edmo back in the news. And also, this just in from our friends on the left, there's a big news going on here concerning a bill that will be proposed once again in the Idaho legislature. And basically, it is a bill designed that would apply legislation next session. The legislation would ban the box on a job application that asks if the applicant has a prior criminal record. And here we have Idaho State Senator, Democrat from Boise, Sherry Buckner Webb, giving her thoughts on this issue. Let's take a listen now on KIDO Talk Radio.
Time and time again, last legislative session and every day, that there are not enough people to fill the jobs available in Idaho. We just don't have enough folks. So why would we miss this wonderful resource of people that are capable, willing, very eager to go to work and prove themselves again?
Right, there we have it. We're going to ban the box and allow the criminals to just be like everybody else. Rehabilitation or not? Let's talk about it next. Thanks for waking up on the right side, and you're home for Hannity, KIDO Talk Radio.
We hear time and time again, last legislative session and every day, that there are not enough people to fill the jobs available in Idaho. We just don't have enough folks. So why would we miss this wonderful resource of people that are capable, willing, very eager to go to work and prove themselves again?
So there we have it. Sherry Buckner Webb saying that she wants to support legislation that would ban the "if you've been a felon, check here" box. What is up with that? More in a minute. Traffic and weather together. Good morning, Robin. And Kevin Miller in the morning. Coming up next hour, we'll talk a little bit about the challenges to the president, more on the transgender criminal who could be getting a free transformation. Are you down with that? But back to this issue of banning the box, right? Banning the box. The box, you say? When you're filling out a job application, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Check the box. You have Senator Webb, Buckner Webb, saying, you know, her rationale for this, and I guess the ACLU is looking into this as well, her rationale for this is that there are so many industries that need people who are going to work, that need people that, you know, can start tomorrow in Idaho. Now, we would hope that the massive employment that we have here would last forever, but is it fair, and this is my argument, is it fair to the employer? Is it fair to the employees that you would eliminate the box saying whether or not you are a convicted criminal? Now, if you lie on those boxes, what happens next? You get fired. More on that in a minute. We go to Max, who joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Max.
Good morning. You are certainly up and at 'em, my buddy.
Blessed to be here.
I want to talk about two things, but first and foremost is this thing about gender. Now, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. I'm a physician. I'm a doctor. And I was taught in med school that there are only two sexes. As I've practiced medicine around the world, I've noticed that there are two sexes. So all of a sudden, people are telling me I'm wrong and there's more than two genders. You know what? I'm not easily confused, but this is blowing my mind.
This would appear to be the future.
It's just, you know, they've always relied on science to try and kill religion. Now they're relying on pseudoscience to kill science. Enough said there. The other I want to talk about, oh, good Lord, is this whole criminal thing. Even China has a system that they use for criminals. Let's say you robbed a bank. You went to jail for 10 years. You get out. You keep your nose clean for 3 years. They wipe out your record, the arrest and prison. The only way that can be accessed is if you're picked up on I guess we call here a felony, a high felony. You can apply for a job. You can be a security guard. It won't show up when they check on you. It's called the second chance rule. Now, if you violate that, there are no more second chances. And you'll be in America. You could pick up a candy bar at the age of 14, shoplift it, and that's going to follow you the rest of your life. I think we need to look at our criminal justice system very carefully and ask ourselves, who gets a second chance? Does anybody get a second chance? Or do we just burn them all? We've been burning them all.
Great job, Max. More coming up. Waking up on the right side. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.